I competed in my first jiu-jitsu tournament, and in this video, I want to share what my whole experience was like. So I'm going to share what did I do to prepare for the tournament, how I got myself ready in the weeks leading up, and what happened the day of, and my feelings throughout. Because everyone loves feelings, right? So why did I even want to compete in the first place? I've been training for about a year and a half now, on average 5 to 6 days a week. I've trained at quite a few places and traveled a decent amount to visit other gyms in other states, but for the most part, I train with the same people every day. Jiu-Jitsu is definitely a male-dominated sport, so for the most part, I'm training with guys that are bigger, stronger, and better than me, and I just feel like I'm constantly getting smashed. So a part of me wanted to compete to see how my year and a half of training, knowledge, and fitness stacks up against other women my age and size. I think competing in any sport is just good for you. It's healthy to have good competition. I also love traveling and experiencing new things, so I thought it'd be a fun way to bring jiu-jitsu and traveling together. So, preparing for the tournament. I won't lie, this was rough for me, both physically and mentally. From the day I signed up to the day of the tournament, I only had about 4 weeks to prepare. But before I get into that, let me back up for just a second. The tournament I signed up for was the IBJJF Orlando Open. The division I entered was female white belt Master 2 middleweight. So basically, I would be matched up against other women between the ages of 36 to 40 and those of us that weigh less than 152.6 pounds. And not that it really matters, but at the time of the match, I'm a 2-stripe white belt. On the day of the tournament, I knew I would have to do an official weigh-in wearing my Ghee, rash guard, sports bra, spandex shorts, and my belt. If you're overweight during that official weigh-in, too bad, you don't get to compete. So I was definitely nervous that I wouldn't be able to get down to the weight class that I had signed up for. I think altogether what I was going to wear weighed right around 3.5 pounds. So I knew that the morning of the match, I wanted to weigh in right around 147 in order to give me enough room to drink a little coffee, water, and possibly eat a protein bar. 4 weeks before the tournament, I weighed right around 160. So I had 13 pounds to lose in 4 weeks. That's a lot. So what did I do to lose the weight? First thing, I wrote down my goal, printed it out, and I stuck it on the fridge so I would see it multiple times a day. Long story short, I cut a lot of calories from what I was previously eating and worked out almost every day. There were definitely some days that I was just so tired my body needed a rest, but for the most part, I was trying to get in as much cardio as possible in order to cut all that weight. Another thing I did as sort of a last-ditch effort, I would go and lay in a really hot bath for like 10 to 20 minutes a day so I could sweat out as much as possible. That was my weight loss journey kind of in a nutshell. But like I said, that was definitely the toughest part for me. On top of trying to drill and learn as much jiu-jitsu as possible in those 4 weeks, I also had those 13 pounds to lose. I don't want to sound like too much of a baby, but it was pretty mentally exhausting. Since going through all that, I told myself I'm going to do everything I can to not have to go to that extreme ever again. If I have to drop a few pounds here and there, fine, but yeah, I won't lie. Those last few days before the tournament, I was feeling seriously burnt out, and I kind of just wanted the tournament to be over with. As far as coming up with a plan for the jiu-jitsu knowledge and technique that I wanted to learn in those 4 weeks before the match, we started by writing it all down, all my bad habits and things that we saw that needed to be tuned up. We wrote down like 3 or 4 things that needed to be worked on from every position: close guard, open guard, half guard, side control, mount, and rear mount. And as we were working through that list, there were, of course, things that came up, but we always had that base list to fall back on if I ever questioned, like, what should I be learning or drilling today? From when I first started jiu-jitsu to now, a lot of my time has really been focused on learning defense, how to get out of really bad situations, and really stay focused on learning strong fundamentals versus trying to learn flashy techniques and submissions. Whether that was the right way of doing things, I don't know. TBD, but that's what we did, and I'm happy to say that for my first match, it worked. I was extremely nervous the week of the tournament. I don't even think it was so much nervous as in like, am I gonna win or lose? I think the nerves was coming from a place of me being worried about whether I was gonna make weight or not knowing whether I spent enough time drilling and learning the things that we had planned. Also, I didn't really know how the schedule the day of the tournament was going to go. I'm a big planner, and it really throws me off when I don't know exactly how something is gonna go. I found out the day before the tournament that my match was scheduled for right around 2 p.m. and Mike's match was going to be around noon. It's about a 3-hour drive to get up there to the venue, so I think we left the house around like 7 a.m. in order to give us plenty of time in case we hit traffic or anything. Once we got there, we checked in, did an unofficial weigh-in, and then had plenty of time to just chill and watch some of the matches that were already going on. For the unofficial weigh-in, they just have a scale sitting there in the lobby that you can throw on your gi and everything else that you're gonna be wearing for the match, and just go check your weight beforehand. That was really, really helpful because let's say you're half a pound over a few hours before your match, you can go run around the building a few times and sweat it out. Or if you're like me, I believe for the unofficial weigh-in, I came in a pound underweight. So I was like, sweet, I have enough wiggle room to drink some water, and I ate a few hard-boiled eggs that we had brought with us. I had also weighed myself before we even left the house that morning, so I had a pretty good idea of where my weight was, but I didn't really know how my scale was going to match up against their scale. So that was definitely the nerve-wracking part for me, considering how much effort I had put into losing all that weight beforehand. But it all worked out. Mike's match was scheduled for around 12 p.m., so I figured I had some time to go watch him and then come back, change, warm up, and then go for the official weigh-in before my own match. Unfortunately, while he was warming up, I started feeling like a little headache coming on. And now thinking back on it, it was probably most likely to not eating enough the week prior, potentially being slightly dehydrated, and I'm sure the nerves and stress of the whole situation didn't help out. I didn't have any headache medicine with me right there down on the mat, and Mike was warming up for his match, so I didn't want to start like freaking out and make it all about me, but I kind of had a feeling it was only going to get worse. My match was originally scheduled for 2 o'clock, but that's taking into consideration that all the matches before me are going to go their full time, which is 5 minutes. If someone gets submitted, a match could end in like 30 seconds, and then all the matches following that are gonna get bumped up. I think my match ended up getting bumped up about an hour. Maybe I competed around like 1 or 1:15. It was definitely before 2 o'clock, so there was less time in between his match and mine than I had expected. After he competed, we went over to the podium for him, and then it was time for me to go up and get changed and start warming up. Unfortunately, by that time, my headache was pretty bad, but I did find something to take. Had a few bites of a protein bar, drank a little water, and it was time to go. Basically, by the time we got back down to the floor, I only had enough time to tape up my fingers, and I had to go for the official Ghee check and weigh-in. The Ghee check was interesting. I've seen it done before, but that was obviously the first time I had done it myself. I somewhat knew the rules and thought that I had planned for it, but I guess my pants were riding up too high. I don't remember exactly what he said, but the guy basically told me that my pants were too short. And I just imagine I was looking at him like a deer in headlights, not knowing what to do. Honestly, he probably took pity on me because I'm just a little white belt. I don't think he said anything, but he kind of motioned to me to pull my pants down a little bit so they would sit at the proper length. The reason they do the Ghee check is to make sure your jacket and pants aren't too short. If they're too short, it really gives you the advantage because it will make it a little harder for your opponent to grip and hold on to you. After the Ghee check, I did the official weigh-in, and I honestly can't even remember what my exact weight was because it all happened so fast, but I was definitely underweight, so that's all that matters. Then I went to the bullpen where I was just waiting for my name to be called. So I did have a few minutes to move around a little bit. I did some jumping jacks, squats, and I tried to stretch just a little bit. I remember someone must have spilled soda or something on the floor because when I was jumping around, my sandals were sticking to the floor. I just remember being so annoyed with that situation, and I was just, I don't know, my brain was just flustered at how quick things were happening right then. I was also nervous because my opponent hadn't checked in yet, so I was thinking, oh great, am I even gonna have a match today? It was only the two of us that had signed up for our division, so I was really hoping with all that preparation that it wasn't for nothing. I think when they did call our names, she had checked in like, 30 seconds before that, so everything worked out, but my brain just felt a bit chaotic there for a minute. The lack of warming up also definitely added to my nerves because Leading up to the tournament, everyone kept telling me, make sure you warm up as much as possible because you want to go into your match like sweating a little bit with your heart rate up. That was definitely not the case for me. So then we're walking out to the mat. I wish I had a picture of this because for some reason it was just one of those feelings that I don't really ever want to forget. It was just really cool. There were 12 mats on the floor with matches going all day long on every mat. The bullpen and the mat that I competed on were on complete opposite sides of the arena. So as my opponent and I were following this person that's taking us down to the mat, it felt like we were walking on like a runway or something. It's definitely a different feeling being down on the mats and taking it all in from that angle versus watching the matches from up in the stands. Also, I was following behind my opponent, so I was just thinking, oh my God, this is the actual person that I'm going to be fighting in a few minutes. And I caught myself kind of starting to size her up a little bit. But I was able to catch myself from freaking out, and I told myself, just look down at your feet and focus on each step that I was taking, which kind of seems silly now, but it kept me distracted. So we got down to the mat where we were competing, and the match before us was still going on. I think it probably had like a minute or so left. So I did some more jumping jacks and squats, and then I was running in place a little bit to try to get warmed up and get my heart rate up. I was also trying to look around a little bit and soak it up what's going on and not think too much about what I'm about to do. It was cool to look out and see the crowd of people watching the matches. I've competed in mountain biking, dirt biking, and golf before, but never something like this with all these spectators watching. So it was an interesting feeling, you know, to see all those people that are going to be watching you. Don't worry, I am fully aware that these people were not obviously there to watch me. Once I stepped on the mat, everyone just kind of disappeared, but it was an interesting feeling, something I didn't expect or think about beforehand. So the match before us ended and the ref called us out onto the mat. We walked out there, I shook the ref's hand, and I think I shook my opponent's hand. I didn't even really know the match had started, and she pulled guard on me, which good on her for doing that. Honestly, that was probably a part of her game plan. But it definitely took me off guard. I didn't even really know what was happening until it already had happened. And I ended up in her closed guard immediately. Obviously, it was my first match, and I'll hopefully be more prepared for something like that the next time it happens. For the match itself, I got stuck in her closed guard for a really frustratingly long time. I am really thankful that one of my friends was there to record my match because I've been able to look back on it and watch it a bunch of times and just see all the mistakes that I made and see things that I can work on and try not to let happen again. I mean, I'll forever make mistakes, we all do, but at least I have a starting point of where to go. Another thing I wasn't expecting was that the crowd was actually pretty loud. Not that they were cheering for me, but there were 12 other matches going on at the same time, so it's obviously bound to be noisy. Mike was coaching me from the sideline, and he was calling out all these commands throughout the match and coaching me on things that like he saw that I should be doing. But when I was in the match, I was just so focused on what I was doing and trying not to get submitted that I didn't think I could hear him. But when I'm watching the video, I can see myself get frustrated, and I thought I couldn't hear him, but I definitely reacted and did some of the things that he was telling me to do. In the moment, I had no idea, but that's okay. It was, you know, my first experience with someone coaching me like that from the sideline. And I'm definitely thankful for the coaching he was able to give me and that he knows my game really well. So, you know, he was able to yell out those commands, and he knew that I actually knew what he was asking me to do. I did look up at the clock a few times to see how much time was left and see if I was like up or down on points, but I'm not even really sure that helped because it's not like I had a strategy for how to fight whether I was up or down on points. That was especially obvious at the end of the match. I think we were tied on points, but I was up by one advantage with only 30 seconds left to go. I had her in my closed guard, and all I should have done was just hold her and not let her pass my guard, and I would have won, like without question. While I was watching the video, Mike was yelling at me, "Don't open your closed guard," but for some reason, I did, and she was somehow able to get an advantage. So when the time ran out, we were tied on points and advantages. At that point, it's ref's decision who won or lost. I don't fully know the rules on this, but from what I understand, A lot of times when it goes to ref's decision, it comes down to who was more aggressive throughout the match and who was being more active or attempting more submissions. I was definitely confused at the end of the match because the scoreboard still showed that I had won by an advantage, but my opponent's coach was talking to the ref about how she should have gotten advantage at the very end there. So at first I thought I won, and then I looked to the sideline and no one was really celebrating, so I didn't want to show too much emotion or excitement right away because I was really unsure what was happening. But after some time, the ref took both of our wrists and he ended up raising my hand in the air. Whew. This feeling of almost like relief came over me. Like, it's over, oh my God, I did it, I won. Like all that time and energy the last 4 or 5 weeks was worth it for just those 5 minutes on the mat. After the match, while we were walking over to the podium, we were talking about the match and things I did well and things that I definitely should have not done. It was really cool to have them there and talk about it in the moment. And being able to step on top of that podium felt so cool. And getting to have that big medal hang around my neck, yeah, that's definitely an addicting feeling. I'm definitely looking forward to competing more and just keep testing my jiu-jitsu knowledge against other women. So that's it. That is my story of my first tournament. I hope it was entertaining or interesting for you to listen to. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel because I have another big tournament coming up pretty soon. So leave a comment down below, wish me luck for that one, or come back soon and you'll see if I continue this winning streak. Thanks for watching. Bye.